Hey Emma,
Yes, Madelyn.
what do you get when you take away the of Edith Finch from today's new game?
What do you get?
What remains? Hello, and welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
See, it was kind of a meta joke.
It was real complex.
Because it's like...
Thoughtful.
Thank you. Like the game, I thought it would be appropriate. There's not really that much of a puzzle to it. It's just like kind of double meaning-y, you know? There's a lot of depth to it.
Lots of depth.
A lot of
Truly.
depth to my joke. Anyway, I'm your deep host, Madelyn.
I'm your super shallow host, Emma.
Oh my god. And welcome. We're happy to have you with us here on this full episode of Talk This.
Yes, we're very happy.
On today's episode, as in every full-length Talk This, we'll be talking about two games. One old, I guess now it's pre-2008, right?
Yes.
And one new, which is in roughly the last year or so, although we have some games that have been grandfathered in because they've been in our hat for so long.
Yeah.
Our grandfathered in new games.
Uh-huh.
And then, at the end, we we create a mashup that's somewhere between, like, completely terrible and maybe I would buy this if it was $2 on Steam.
Aw, come on.
No, that's
I'm sure
true.
we've had at least a couple of $20 sales.
That's true. We have a couple of bona fide hits back there in the back catalog.
Somewhere.
So, I'm thinking about starting a blog series. It's about kind of our game mashups. But we start a new blog series every week, so that might have to wait for a little bit.
Yeah, Madelyn sort of runs our blog. And I say I'm going to write blog posts and then leave them half-finished.
Anyway, this week on our not half-finished podcast, on our fully finished podcast, which is funny because I'm saying that now and it's not fully finished, but it will be by the time you're listening to this, we'll be talking about our old game, which is Prince of Persia. We'll be kind of talking about the whole series there. Because pretty much all of them fall into the old game category, actually.
Yeah.
And our new game, which you might have surmised if you're a real clever one and you could put the pieces together from the joke, is...
Literally.
Is What Remains of Edith Finch. And, is it a video game? Maybe
Yes.
We'll talk about that. I mean, yes, I agree, but we'll talk about that. So I guess we should just... let the sands of time transport us back to the 80s, specifically to 1989, when the Prince of Persia was released.
Ooh.
Ooh, we're traveling back in time.
That was my time. That's what time travel sounds like, right?
Yes, it always has like kind of an ooh sound to it. That's the correct time travel vowel. Anyway, Prince of Persia, it's created by a guy named Jordan Mechner, who was like a pretty newbie video game designer, right?
I mean, who wasn't back in 1989?
True that. But he was pretty new to the thing. He had created a game beforehand that was kind of a martial arts beat 'em up called Karateka. And because of that, like, a company had been like, great, make us another game, sort of thinking he was going to make a sequel to Karateka. And instead, he made Prince of Persia, which is, like, in Prince of Persia, it's a platformer, which I played a little bit of the, like, an emulated version of the original game before the show today, and wow, I am bad at this game. But we'll talk about that. Basically, it's a platformer and an adventure game and a puzzle game, and there's a little bit of combat, wherein you play as this Prince of Persia, surprise, surprise.
He's unnamed.
Yeah, who's unnamed. Although you aren't really at the beginning you aren't really the prince, right? Like, you're in love with a princess, but you haven't become a prince yet. Anyway.
I'm not familiar with the plot of the original game, but I think in the remake, or the redo or the revamp or whatever adjective you want to use, he is actually a prince.
Well, yes, because after the first game, he succeeds in freeing the princess, who's been locked away by the evil vizier Jafar. What the heck did some guy named Jafar ever do, by the way?
It must mean something in a language, like nobody is. Are people actually named Jafar? Because I feel like it's associated with like evil-y characters. It's like nobody's named Maleficent, vizier, but it's because it means something, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder if Jafar actually means something. It's like a word.
Well, either it means something or it must turn up in like 1001 Arabian Nights or something like that. And like we're just basing everything on that forever.
Yeah.
Anyway, evil wizard, vizier, Jafar. It's a lot like the plot of it is not unlike Aladdin, except you're a little bit more badass and there's fewer like Robin Williams genie creatures.
Yeah.
And parrots.
But I mean, like, we'll talk about this, I guess, later, but I'm more familiar with the newer, which is not really saying much because the first one came out in 2003, but in those ones, he is a prince.
Yes, so in the first game, you're not a prince, you have to rescue the princess. Then, in all of the Following games? In all of the following games, you've then married the princess and
But you're not married in Sands of Time. It's like a redo of the first game, I'm pretty sure.
No, I think it's a redo of the second game.
Well, they're not married. I can tell you that
they're
much.
Not married. You're betrothed. It happens 12 days after the original game, and you like go into the palace and like transform into a beggar or something.
In the second game, you mean? In the second of the original 3?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't talking about that.
I know you weren't, but if you were saying... Okay, sorry.
We're getting a little bit...
The Sands of Time are messing us up here a little bit. Anyway, it's this whole series. Emma can jump in a minute to talk about this rebooted series, but there was like this original 3 games that were put out.
I was just trying to point out the differences between them.
That makes sense. So there are these 3 original games that come out, which is Prince of Persia, The Shadow and the Flame, both of which are very well received, just sell very well, and then there's Prince of Persia 3D, which is just a mess, and nobody likes very much, and doesn't sell very well. And we sort of give up on Prince of Persia for a little bit as a result of that. And then, in 2003, it's rebooted, and Emma's going to tell us more about kind of the Sands of Time.
Sure. So, basically, Prince of Persia was bought, or the company that made it, or the IP, I'm not 100% sure.
I think it's the IP, but...
Yeah, it was bought by Ubisoft. And they brought the original guy on to help make their sort of reboot, sort of like, it's not a sequel, it's like just a redo of the games with a better, engine and a slightly different story. And that's called Sands of Time. And that one is very well received, does very well. I'm pretty sure, like, critically and commercially, but it definitely at least critically successful. And then, once they did that, they decided, oh man, people really love Sands of Time. What if we took everything that made Sands of Time good and destroyed it? And made a game like that. So then they made Prince of Persia Warrior Within, which is super dark and violent, in contrast to the more Aladdin-y tone, I guess, of the first game. Of, being like swashbuckling, adventure, Nathan Drake-y stuff. Whatever.
Well, to compare it to Nathan Drake is tough.
Why is it tough?
Well, I guess I'm thinking of the original game, and I'm like, this is a whole different world.
I mean the tone, not the world itself.
Yes,
like in Sands of Time, he's like a playboy, sort of know-it-all, and he grows throughout the course of the game to be more mature, and builds the relationship with the princess. But he's a prince himself. I'm almost 100% positive, because like his father is killed, and that's what spawns the whole adventure. But Warrior Within was like, man, games are getting dark and gritty now, so now we gotta get dark and gritty, and everybody hated it. And then eventually, the sales were still good, even though people were meh about it. So they made the two thrones, and they tried to strike a balance in between the two. I've never really heard of two thrones before reading Wikipedia, so I feel like that sort of says something about it. And it was sort of, and then there's Forgotten Sands also.
And there's yet another. They do like another reboot in 2008. Just called Prince of Persia. Which is like kind of more open world. Which like, having now played the original platformer, seems like very, very like against kind of the purpose of this original game.
Mm-hmm.
The Wikipedia for this one, incidentally, says that the game begins with the prince, parentheses, which is only a nickname. The game does not actually mention whether he is from a royal family, close parentheses. So, I think that could prince serving as a nickname.
The original game, you mean?
No, this is 2008.
Oh, the reboot.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Reboot.
So I think we can go ahead and say, like, Prince, like, maybe sometimes he's actually royalty, maybe sometimes it's an homage to, it's like a Purple Rain kind of prince. Maybe it's just, like, Prince, like it's a dog, like he was named like a dog name. Like, I don't know.
Are you sufficiently confused yet?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the timeline and the different incarnations are confusing to keep straight.
Anyway, what they do all have in common is you play as this guy, there's a princess love interest, and you do a lot of kind of jumping around and swashbuckling and falling, and if you're me, anyway, platforming and that kind of like acrobatic adventurer making his way, doing good, Aladdin style, minus the genie.
What you would like about the Sands of Time is that there's a sword that turns back time, hence Sands of Time, so that when you fall during platforming, you turn back time to fix your mistake.
Well, okay, so here's
Wouldn't that
what
be great
happens.
for perfectionist Madelyn?
Here's what happens in the original, well, the emulated version I was playing, and I'll share the link to it on our social media this week, so you all can try and probably do a lot better than me. So, like, there are different levels, and one of, like, the enduring gameplay mechanics, at least through some of the series, is it's like, you have, like, an hour, or 2 hours, or an hour and a half, right, to play the whole game. Does that carry through to Sands of Time?
No, it's like a story-driven
thing. Great. So in our first trilogy, it's like in this case, you have just an hour to complete it. All the levels, the whole game. And you don't have lives. But you do have this time limit. So you can die as many times as you like, but you just get, like, spat back to the beginning of the level each time. Which, let me tell you, folks, blows. 'Cause I am not very good at platforming. I am good at kind of conceptually understanding how I need to get through a platformer level, but I am very bad at getting my character to jump at the appropriate time. So in my, like, 20 minutes of trying to get through the first level of 12 of Prince of Persia, the original, I threw myself down onto the same spikes over and over and over again. I did get to the point where I picked up a sword, and I knew I had to get back to, like, the sword fighting guy who had killed me several times before I realized there was no way for me to pull out the sword that I did not yet possess. However, I could not figure out how to get back and grab onto the ledge at the appropriate time, so I did not get to test my swashbuckling abilities. However, I did do that first 2 minutes of the level, like, 10 times.
That's all you need.
It was not... I was playing it, and it was like, wow, like, I appreciate that video games coddle me now. And just, like, let me retry. And, like, it was in contrast to, earlier the same day, I finished playing Ventus's storyline in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. And I was playing it on Proud Mode, and I just picked it up again, really, after not playing for, like, 3 months, as is my, like, go-to with this game. And I fought Vanitas, like, 20 times in a row. That's not true. 10 times in a row. And I just hit retry, and I'd start right up where I was. Didn't even have to really watch the scene again.
That's a BS boss fight.
Well,
wait, it took you back to where you were?
No, I just hit retry, and I got to, like, start right at it again.
Oh. Okay. Because I feel like I got to the second phase a lot and died, and then had to do the first phase again.
Oh, I beat the second phase first time. That sucks.
Yeah, so good. You're lucky.
I feel better about myself. Anyway, yeah, I played the first phase like a dozen times. Fortunately, I'd loaded my deck with cures, not realizing, like, just to level them up. Anyway, this is not about the game. But the point being, I enjoyed how I did not have to replay any of the game that I already felt that I had mastered to get to this boss fight. Whereas in Prince of Persia, I had to do the same thing over and over and over again. And I just, as a gamer in 2018, I appreciated it. It did make me want to keep playing the game. Mm-hmm. So I was like, because I'm stubborn, but I also felt frustrated, and I just wanted to see more of the game.
Yeah, I see that. I think that's like the old school design philosophy that sort of influences like the Dark Souls-y sort of games, right? Of like doing the same thing over and over again till you get it perfect, right? And that sort of drive in a person.
Right, and, you know, it goes back to kind of that arcade game kind of thing of like, oh, well, you want to put in another quarter, or you want to put in another quarter.
Yeah.
And I get that, but this was never an arcade game, so cut me some slack. But yeah, so it seems like that does not carry over at all into this, like, second Sands of Time trilogy.
It's still platforming based, but I mean, you have the ability to rewind time as one of the major gameplay mechanics. There's more combat, I'm pretty sure, but there's no time limit. Is that what you said it had? It had a time limit?
Yeah, you just have 60 minutes to finish the game. There's no lives or anything. You just have like 60 minutes.
Oh, I see. Yeah, there's no time limit on this one, because it's, you know, story. Right, action-adventure genre more than it is sort of challenging platforming genre. Yeah. If that is a genre.
Well, let me tell you, folks, it is. That's this game. It is cool. So I was reading about how they used this kind of, like, for the time, very innovative style of capturing, like, the motion of the character. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to remember what it's called. But he used, like, his brother. Rotoscoping. And he used like his brother to like run and jump and like be the model for this like tiny character. Mm. And you know what? He does move like a person. He doesn't move like an arcade character. Except that like he runs when I don't want him to, off cliffs. Which
rotoscoping is still pretty common. In
really?
Some animated works.
Well, it was cool. I mean, you know, it still like I say, it didn't look like an arcade character. I mean, it wasn't anything like fancy schmancy.
Yeah.
You know, we just watched E3 with all these beautiful cinematic crap.
Yeah.
It's like, did not look like that. But it moved like a person in like a cool way, which was interesting. And I believed him as this like acrobatic cool dude. And when he jumped, it was with power and grace. And it was exciting when I got my jumps right because of it.
Motion capture these days, I don't know how people can act and be wearing all that.
It's just a skill. I mean, people act and wear, like, horrible, huge costumes all the time.
Yeah.
Any kind of children's theater musical tour they're, like, based on an animated series, they're wearing these, like, huge headpieces, and they do it.
But that you don't have to emote. I mean, you just have to be over the top, right? You don't have to have all these sticky stuff on your face.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that must take a lot of getting used to.
Yeah. If you want to be amused, you should listen, speaking of E3, listen to Ashley Johnson and whoever plays the other actress from the Last of Us Part 2 trailer. Just the experience of having to motion cap a kiss is painful. Sounds like...
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, it seemed like it was not a super fun experience.
I mean, I guess, plenty of people act with, like, prosthetics on their faces and that kind of thing. So it just must be kind of a natural, not natural, but a next step from that. Anyway, I'm super bad at platformers. I'm super bad at most arcade-style games.
It's okay, Madeline. We're just super bad at games.
My participation trophy. Please. Make it easier. I want to be good at this.
You're good at everything, Madeline.
Thanks, Emma. See,
I believe in you.
That's what I wanted to hear.
You gave it your best shot, and that's all we can ask for.
I did, and I did not make it very far. I did not even make it far enough. They don't even let you save your game until you made it through 3 levels.
That's rude.
So, I would have just had to do the beginning forever. Or I would have lucked through it one time, and then promptly died on something stupid.
Seems right.
Anyway, Prince of Persia, also notable for being an entry into our sort of video game canon, video game film canon.
Starring Jake Gyllenhaal.
One thing I will say...
Of Persian descent.
No, but here's the deal. In the game that I played, the Prince of Persia is very white and very blonde. So clearly he's not envisioned, ever, as a Persian. Not that we should be perpetuating that, but...
To be fair, though, the movie is based on The Sands of Time, and he looks slightly more Persian in that one.
Well, Jake Gyllenhaal is not blonde, so that's like 25% of the way.
No, that's all you need.
Yeah. No, well, in Hollywood, it is. No,
I know.
In all seriousness, of course, we are not, I am being tongue-in-cheek about this. We are big supporters of not whitewashing these films, these video game films, but, they were being true to the whitewashed source material. So, come after Mechner. Don't come after Jake.
The love interest, though, does look distinctly more Persian, and I'm pretty sure she's also played by a white actress.
Oh. Well, we wouldn't want to tokenize anyone. No, I'm just kidding. Of course it's a mess. Anyway.
As all video game movies are.
Well, honestly, though, Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time, the film, probably cracks, like, the top 25% of video game movies, just in terms of critical response and box office gross and that kind of thing.
Are we sure?
Look, it gets a 38% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is not good, but is not atrocious. And a lot of the reviews are like, this is not very good, but it didn't seem like they were trying to make something very good, so I guess they succeeded?
It exceeded its production budget, but I'm sort of doubting that it exceeded its marketing budget.
That's fair, but it
says it grossed $336 million against a production budget of $150 to $200 million. But marketing is usually about as much as production.
Sure. So it broke about even. For video game movies, that's a tough bar to clear.
I guess that's pretty true.
And for a while, it was the top-grossing video game adaptation of all time.
I mean, you got Jake Gyllenhaal in it.
It was surpassed by the Warcraft movie.
What? What Warcraft movie?
I don't know. It's
some Warcraft movie.
It's a 2016 American action fantasy film.
Who knew?
Dominic Cooper is in it.
Who's that?
I think that's a name I recognize. But it was supposed to be the new Pirates of Caribbean, and it debuted at the box office behind Shrek Forever After and Sex and the City 2. So
mistake.
Yeah, not so great.
What a mistake.
But again, third highest opening for an adaptation, only defeated by Lara Croft and Pokemon, the first movie. So, it did lose the top spot in the UK to Street Dance 3D. But, of course, the classic.
The classic Street Dance 3D.
No, It gets, okay reviews. Which, again, for a video game movie, pretty high bar.
Yeah.
You know, the reviews that I've looked at are not, like, ripping into it. They're just like, this is not very good.
That's all you can ask for.
That's
about what the most recent Tomb Raider adaptation got, also.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like, you remake these cinematic games, and it's like, well, that's nice, but why aren't I just playing the game?
Yeah.
You know?
Another, one day we'll get a good adaptation someday.
It'll be a long time from now.
Yeah, that's fair. Who knows? Maybe something will...
One day, Katamari Damacy the movie will win the Oscar.
Honestly, maybe. There's some dark storylines in there. We could make it. The Academy would like it.
I would go see that live action movie.
I would too. I would definitely go see it.
Also starring a guy called the Prince.
Seriously, that would be a great mashup to make. Katamari and Prince of Persia. Anyway, we should probably switch to our second game, which is last year's What Remains of Edith Finch.
Yes.
Which it is last year, right? It's 2017?
Yes. Just a little over a year old.
So it's younger than the podcast, which is crazy.
It's been out on the Xbox One for less than a year. So that makes it legit for this category.
Yeah. What Remains of Edith Finch, it's like... It's a mystery game, but there's not a lot of gameplay to speak of.
Okay.
I mean, not in traditional sense.
Sure.
In terms of, like, you don't fight anything. There's not too many, like, super tricky puzzles, that sort of thing. It's much more story-focused than perhaps some of our Prince of Persia stuff might be, wherein you don't really need the story. You're just gonna jump and beat people up. And the story is nice. And I'm glad video games are moving towards story, but Prince of Persia probably doesn't suffer that much from removing the story. You gotta make sure you know that the guy's name is Jafar. That's about it. That's all you really need. It's like, oh, Jafar, great.
I got it.
I know what I gotta do here. Anyway, it's this first-person, kind of story-focused video game in which you play as Edith Finch Jr., who you're revisiting your family home and reviewing all of these artifacts that, like, remind you or tell you about the deaths of everybody else in your entire family.
Yes. So the premise is that the Finch family is cursed to die.
Aren't we all?
Usually untimely deaths. Or at least that's what they believe. So that's what they believe themselves, that they are cursed. Which seems to be supported by the amount of deaths in their family. And it's generally one person from each generation ends up living long enough to have children. And then one person from that generation ends up living long enough to have children. So Edith Finch is a continuation, and I would say a refinement of the sort of what people call walking simulators or exploratory simulators or whatever, that I think really started catching on with Gone Home. And I would say that Edith Finch is like Gone Home, except with more thematic weight and better engagement. At least in my experience playing both of them.
Another one of these, for our longtime listeners, you might remember that we did an episode on Firewatch.
Right, yeah.
Which also sort of falls into that kind of walking simulator genre.
Yeah. Firewatch is a little different, though.
Sure, but it's in the same world.
Yeah. I really liked this game. I liked the way that it used its interactivity with the stories it was telling. Some worked better than others, for sure. As you find sort of different documents that take you through different deaths in the family, it sort of transitions into an actual scene where you see it play out. So it's either like someone writing a reflection of something, or the person writing themselves in a diary entry, or a psychiatrist talking, like a letter or a letter to someone else. And each of the different short stories has their own mechanics that you use. And each has their theme of starting off very joyful and then quickly falling down into death. To put it bluntly. But it's like it's not. It doesn't make it doesn't hide it. It's like all of these are going to end with the person dying, and so it's like the going through the motions of it while knowing that. I felt like made it a lot more impactful to play.
And you're not the only one who thought that. What Remains of Edith Finch won a lot of kind of storytelling and narrative-based awards in 2017 at the British Game Awards and the Game Awards and just everywhere. It's one of the top contenders or the winner in those narrative categories, which is cool. I have to wonder what it was up against. I'm sure I could...
Well, you could probably look.
I'm sure I could find it out. But it just seems like this is a game that is so driven by narrative that I'd be interested to see what the competition is, because...
Well, at the Game Awards, it was up against Hellblade, also very narrative-driven. Horizon Zero Dawn, meh. Nier Automata, great narrative. And Wolfenstein 2, The New Colossus, also very narrative-driven. I mean, What Remains of Edith Finch is a narrative game, but all those games have...
Sure, but I think it's incredible that it manages to win, given that, like, Nier Automata is, like, a 60-hour game?
No.
How long?
30, 40.
30? I assume...
Depends on, like, if you're just playing the game, 30, 40. If you get everything there is to do, sure, 60.
Okay, fine. So it's like a 40-hour, 35-hour game. And this is a 2-hour game.
Well, it's something to be said for... I mean, I love Nier Automata, and I think it does a good job of this, but by the fact that it is 2 hours, What Remains of Edith Finch, it can remain really tightly thematic and tightly sort of woven, whereas all those other games, except maybe Hellblade, there's variability to the storyline based on, like, side quests, right? So if you... Side quests can throw you off, or if you do them in a weird order, it might feel weird, or something like that. So the fact that they keep you contained in that makes it a lot easier to tell a story that's resonant for everybody.
Yeah, and absolutely. And I absolutely agree with that. And certainly, like, even in other genres, like, there are short stories that I think are much better than, like, long novels, and there are short films that I've certainly watched more times than, like, big 3-hour epics, right? Mm-hmm. But I just think, you know, at the Oscars, right, you would never see a short film, like, nominated for Best Picture.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
But I just think it's interesting that the Gaming Awards are able to reward sort of more, like, things that take advantage of the medium differently. And more creative things than we might see in other kind of big award show type things, which I think is really cool. So obviously I have not played this game because I, like, don't own a system that you can... I don't understand why I don't own a system that you can play this on, because why is there not a Mac version?
Yeah, a lot of games don't have Mac versions because they're different.
I know that, but I felt like the reason that there was no Mac version for a lot of games is that the Mac isn't very powerful, which I get. But, like, this feels like... I'm just a little grumpy. I would have bought it and played it.
It does have realistic graphics, right? It's not like a 2D platformer. So that might be limiting it.
I know. But it's 2 hours. Figure it out. I don't know. This is frustrating to me a lot of the time. That
not a lot of people play games on Macs. That's also the thing.
Yeah, but a lot of people own Macs now.
But they don't play games on Macs. People who own Macs don't play games on them.
I do.
Okay, but you're one person. I'm saying not very many people do.
I'm just saying, as everybody young and creative has a Mac, Steam should... Anyway, this is
whatever. Macs are dumb. I hate Macs.
So. I only just got a Mac as I got back into gaming, too, which was a fatal mistake.
I hate how Macs don't close windows when you press the X button. It's stupid. I hate it. Sorry, okay, I got that out of my system.
Well, there we go.
We can keep going.
Emma's hot take of the day.
If I'm pressing the X button, it means I want it to close. Not that I want it to minimize. There's a minimize button for minimizing things. Okay, cool.
And that's
anyway.
how Emma died. She had an aneurysm working on a Mac.
That's what I do at work every day.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know there's been a lot of, not a lot, but there's been some controversy over What Remains of Edith Finch and games like this, and whether or not they should really be described as video games, or whether they're more akin to a visual novel. And Emma, I know you have strong feelings about this.
I think visual novels are video games, so...
Why do you feel that way?
If there's interactivity, then it's a video game. I just like... we're using the... People who argue this, I feel like most of them, use the excuse of being pedantic to dismiss games that they don't like.
Mm.
They're like, this isn't a video game because da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and they sort of pretend that they're concerned about the term usage when it's really like, this is stupid and for non-gamers, and they're not in my community. It's not everybody, but there's a toxic subculture of gaming, particularly as gaming grows more expansive, that is exclusionary and cruel and mean and stupid.
Well, there you have it.
That's my take on it. It's like, if you actually want to have a discussion of what terms should mean, then fine. But I feel like that argument right now is not, what does a video game mean? Rather, it's like, please give me more things to shoot. Like there's one discussion that's maybe valid as long as the term that we come up with for these other experiences are not lesser. But I feel like the discussion we have about these games is the implication is that because they don't fall under the realm of traditional video games, they're lesser. Which is just like stupid.
So how would you define video game?
I think that if it has a level of interactivity, if it uses the mechanics of games that have been established, then it's a game.
Sure. So a historical element to it, right?
Sure.
Yeah. I'm trying to...
You move your character around in Edith Finch, if that's something you consider a video game. But even like visual novels, like even if you don't move your character around with the mouse button, probably you move them around by clicking on things, by being like, go to this room, go to this room, right? You meet, you are in some way meant to identify more personally with that character, versus watching a movie where you might not be seeing things through the first person perspective, for instance. Which automatically makes it more you than the character by having the first-person perspective, which both visual novels and Edith Finch have first-person perspective. It's just, if there's any really level of interactivity, I don't see the issue with calling it a video game.
But what about Click My Heart?
Sure, why not?
It's a video game?
It has video. It has an interactive element. I would say that for it to be a video game, it has to actually have clickable elements. Versus like, what it seems to be doing is like, go to this episode if you want this route, right? So that's not a game, that's just watching things out of order. But if you could actually click on things as you're doing it, then it would be a game.
But what if we watched it on the TV, what if on the computer that is how you do it, you click and you go to
I don't think it is.
I don't
think that's how it works.
What if it was?
Well, I looked it up after we watched it on the TV, and that's not how it works.
I'm asking hypothetically now.
Glitching.
This is
okay. If it was, then yeah, it's a very simple game. But so is like rock, paper, scissors.
That's true.
I get it's just a stupid argument to have. It's like the argument nowadays of like, are video games art? And I'm like, that's a stupid argument to have.
Well,
like, there's
still a lot of argument about what art is in general.
Sure, whatever. Have that pretentious discussion. I don't know.
Well, speaking of pretentious discussion, I'm gonna have to ask the great boyfriend if there's any literature on like, what is a video game? From the kitchen, he has a thumbs up. So maybe I'll have to read some of that and report back.
Yeah. It just gets very pedantic to me.
No, that's fair. I'm like when we were talking about it, I was like, of course we were talking about this like from sort of a more philosophical standpoint of like what are required elements of a video game. Like, of course, it should just be like, mostly it should be obvious. And I think with What Remains of Edith Finch, like, it still is a pretty obvious call. It's like, there are mini games, you like are still doing things.
Mm-hmm.
But as we move even further and further away into like 99% narrative, 1% interactivity, then perhaps it's a question worth revisiting.
I mean, I think that all games are valid, but in terms of pushing what the medium can do, ideally interactivity and narrative are not two different categories.
Oh, 100%. I didn't mean to say it that way. I just meant 99% what we would call a visual novel, 1% like you move around.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think a really key element of video games is some amount of like playing as.
Sure.
So you're playing as something, which is not, or games in general, you're playing as, which you don't do in TV or movies. Like, you can identify with a character more, and you can have a viewpoint character, but you're not playing as that character. So if I had to define a video game, that's what I would say. You're playing as something.
Cool. Well, you know what this game reminded me of most of all, and then we'll go to the mashup?
Sure.
The Nancy Drew video games. That's what it made me think of.
Oh god, those traumatized me so much as a child.
They're scary at the end.
I was scared of stairs for weeks after that one with the Aztec temple.
Yeah, the Aztec temple one is like, should be rated M for mature.
And there's the one at the aquarium where you have to like shoot someone before they shoot you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're scary.
Anyway. Is that in the hat? It should be in the hat.
I think it is in the hat.
Okay, anyway, we gotta mash up these games. Thoughts?
You first.
Okay, I feel like it's really difficult because kind of the hallmark of What Remains of Edith Finch is that, like, it's not a lot of, like, action-adventure. It's just a lot of kind of spooky storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And the hallmark of Prince of Persia is, like, it's all action-adventure all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes for a tricky mashup. But here's what I'm gonna do.
Okay.
So, the Prince of Persia, we're taking it back to the original game. He's been locked up.
Okay.
And he has to, like, get through this dungeon. And in this dungeon, there are portions where it's, like, action-adventure-y platforming, where you're, like, running, and you're jumping, and you're platforming. And then sometimes you reach these crypts, where you have to find out something about the dead body in the crypt, or the person who died in the crypt, in order to advance and solve a puzzle to continue moving.
Okay.
This is not a very innovative way to mash up the two games,
but it's not terrible. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of along the lines of I was thinking is just adding some sort of, not that Edith Finch is really a mystery, but adding some sort of mystery element to Prince of Persia. I almost said, like, Prince of Puppies, I think.
To Prince of Puppies.
that would be a great game. But yeah. of like the princess is missing, and you have to discover things about people in her life or events in her life in order to understand where she went.
That's better than mine, I think, actually. That's better than mine. Another proposal, kind of going the other way, is like you're kind of the Edith Finch type character, and you're like reading all the... I don't know why you're reading the books, you might need to help me, but you're in some kind of like library type setting, and you're reading all these stories of action and adventure, and like you play as those. So like we have to play through kind of some levels of Prince of Persia to read the story. Or we could make it like a Wreck-It Ralph kind of deal. Of it's like, you have to play some Galaga or whatever. These like old school games. We can make it very meta.
Sure, yeah. So you're like a modern video game archaeologist.
Yeah, we'll push it to the future. You're a video game archaeologist. You're trying to understand something about us today from these games. And so you have to like play them and learn lessons.
Okay.
Or maybe
that just sounds like a museum experience, actually.
Honestly, that'd be a friggin' cool
like the
museum
spy
experience.
Museum, but video game museum.
Okay, fine. So not that. You are no. These games are like representative of real people's lives. So it's like a Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure kind of deal. You have to study for your history test.
Oh my god.
No. I think
why not? Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
The third one is
coming. The guy who makes Rick and Morty is making a game, so anything goes.
No, you could do. There's got to be some way I can like work this in. No, this is really hard. Your one about having to like find information to find the princess is good. I like that. We'll go with that for the Prince of Persia reboot.
Okay.
Chrissy Teigen wants it to happen, so...
Does she want John Legend to play the prince?
I don't think so.
Does she want to play, what's-her-face?
That would be funny, though. Actually, that would be A+ casting.
Hey, he played Jesus, so...
Exactly, so now
he can play anything.
He's already been a prince. King, even.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be a step down, honestly.
Yeah, seriously. No, she like tweeted, she was like, oh, when am I making another one? I love that game. And then like the Jordan Mector, whatever it was, tweeted back and was like, we want it to happen too. Some of us have some ideas. So it's not actually going to happen, but like the creator wishes it would.
Mm-hmm. Oh, fun fact. Have we ever talked about Beyond Good and Evil? I think so, right?
I don't think it's ever been a game, but we've talked about it.
The Sands of Time was made in the Jade engine, which was originally designed for Beyond Good and Evil.
Another fun fact.
Because they're both from Ubisoft.
Another fun fact, some consider, and the reason there will probably never be a Prince of Persia reboot, although who knows, we're rebooting everything, is that many consider Assassin's Creed and that series kind of the spiritual successor, even though they don't really share that much in terms of gameplay, but the kind of historical action-adventure, we can only have one. There's not room for
Although
one.
Assassin's Creed also has, like, the future sci-fi element to it.
No, I know, but that's some of the reason why people don't imagine that Ubisoft will be eager to reboot this.
Yeah. Also made into a very mad movie starring a white dude.
Yep.
Who was it? Was it Matthew McConaughey? It was,
I don't think it was Matthew. That would be weird.
It was the other guy. The other whitish man.
Oh, the other one. The other one.
Oh, God. Who was it? Google?
Well,
it was...
I'll take this opportunity.
Michael Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender, sure. The other Michael.
Yes.
Matthew. Not Michael.
The other M name.
This is going off the rails fast. So let me plug our social media. So if you enjoyed this episode, or even if you found this episode mildly intriguing, you were wondering sort of like what remains of other episodes of Talk This, You can find us online. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Talk This Podcast, where you'll see articles that we share, and I'll share the link to the Prince of Persia game so you can tell me that it's not that hard and I just suck at video games, which, yes, I know.
Please tell her that.
We share
She'll
articles, we share
well.
links, we share memes, I had a crazy idea this week. And I don't know if I'm going to do it, but if you would be interested, if you live in the New York City area, and you would be interested in attending Wah! For Waluigi at Washington Square Park sometime in the near future to protest his lack of inclusion, except as like the utter disrespect with which he's been treated in this Smash reboot. Let me know, and I'll make an event.
Wah!
Wah!
Poor Waluigi.
It's not his fault. Anyway.
It's a little bit his fault.
Anyway, there might be an event for that on Facebook, too, if I'm feeling silly enough. So follow us on all our social media. You should also check out our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can learn more about us. You can find our previous episodes. You can check out our blog, featuring all sorts of series. The Buzz This, where I take video game BuzzFeed quizzes. Clickbait Boyfriend, where my boyfriend is almost through playing Kingdom Hearts 2. We only have about 2 more left, and the next one is going to be A+. Get ready. Also, our newest series, Split Screen, which is a subsidiary of Watch This, wherein Emma and I kind of take our off-topic corner, and we're watching Boys Over Flowers and My Hero Academia, and it's a lot of fun, so you should check that out. Let's see, we're also on YouTube, where you can find our Flashback Friday episode highlights, the Clickbait Boyfriend mini vlogs, and most importantly, Emma's Play This series, a monthly series.
Wah!
Wah! In which she examines.
Waluigi has yet to be featured.
Can you just do one on like how Waluigi factors in the Nintendo universe?
No.
Wow. Anyway.
But there will be one of those coming up at the end of the month.
Yeah. And if you like this episode also, you should find us our other episodes. You can subscribe and rate and review on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, and Google Play.
Yep. And something we haven't been mentioning that maybe we should have over the last few episodes, but we both are going to be attending the Games for Change conference in New York at the end of the month. And hopefully we'll have fun there and have new insights to share with you on the podcast. And also, if you're attending, we'd love to say hello.
We'll be the ones wearing the Talk This Podcast shirts for 3 days in a row.
Madelyn will be the one doing that.
Ah.
I'll be wearing it for 1 day, as is sanitary, in a hot New York summer.
Oh, well. So yeah, let us know if you're going to be there. We'd love to chat with anyone who's listened to the podcast. So I think that about wraps it up, except for the ever-important drawing of next week's games.
The hats are here!
Exciting.
It's not a Waluigi hat. Waluigi? I keep saying it wrong.
Waluigi.
Waluigi?
No, you did it wrong.
It just... Waluigi! It's just a Luigi hat. I just have a Luigi hat. Anyway, this is our old game. So, Madelyn, if you tell me when...
Wah!
Earthbound.
Cool.
We're talking about Earthbound. Right after everybody remains disappointed after there's no news of Mother 3. Anyway.
Wah, wah.
New game. Which is in Madelyn's weird theater prop hat.
Which one?
Make America Love Again.
Oh, nice. Right. Wah!
Wah. Okay. Tell me when.
I just did.
Oh, tell me when again.
When?
No, Madelyn. Tell me when.
When?
Okay. We will be doing Pyre.
Pyre?
Pyre, as in funeral pyre.
Earthbound Pyre. I like it. I've heard of neither of these games.
That's why she likes it. Just like normal.
Wow.
Anyway, look forward to that, where Madelyn promises she'll have done research by then.
I always do research, but next week I don't have to because it'll be one of our side quests. Our side quest news show format 4.0, where we talk about things off topic, weather, traffic related. Not literally, those are just segments. It's about video games.
Yeah, it's still about video games.
What we've been playing, folks, there's some Champ McDude news.
And I've been playing stuff.
Not to mention Dark Elf Cool.
Yeah.
But that'll be coming up next Sunday. And in the meantime, alright, do you think you can predict what I'm gonna wish?
Oh gosh, I just don't know.
So chime in. Wish? Chime in if you think you can chime in. Have
a great one week.
No, I was gonna do wonderful week.
Have a wonderful week.